Hey, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to take a look at creating arrays, specifically arrays within families, because it's not quite the easiest thing to do, but it's not that difficult. There's a few things you need to be aware of, but we're going to cover all of those in this video. There might be multiple parts because I want to look at not only a single array, but multiple arrays and things like that. So be sure to take a look at that. There might be more. Let's get into it now. But before that, if you do happen to learn something, which I really hope you do, then please demolish that like button. It helps me out very, very much. All right, so what I have here is just this basic object. It's a blend. It's really nothing special. It's essentially random, and I made it really quickly. But I want to use this object to array across a family. And so the first thing that we need to be aware of is that we want to make a generic model family. And it doesn't have to be a generic model, but for the sake of this video, and generally for what I do for arrays, is I'll make the array object, or the thing I'm going to array, its own generic model. And I would recommend doing that because you want to be able to work with a single object and then make that object, and then take that object and array that object in another family. So what I have here is just my array object, and I'm specifically named it that because I want to know that this object is what I'm going to use to array. Okay, so cool. At this point, I have my array object made, and again, you can make whatever you want, it does not matter. This is not particularly big, but the idea is that maybe this thing will end up arraying across a wall, and so it's like these little pegs that show up on a wall or something, I don't know. Okay, so with this saved, its own generic model family, I actually want to go in and make another family. So new, family, and we want to make sure, again, for what we're doing, we can do generic model. It's perfectly fine. You could even do this as a wall-based family. I mean, anything like that. You can do however you want. But generic model it's going to be the easiest, and it's going to make it so you probably understand better what's going on in the actual array, and then we can maybe tailor that to other types of Revit family templates later on. And so at this point, I'm just going to make another generic model. And really, before I do anything, I'm just going to save this as a new family, and I want to name it, instead of array object, I'll call this array, and I want to make sure I'm not just calling it array and then walking away. I want to call this array horizontal because we want to array in a particular direction. In this case, we're going to array this horizontally. Okay, very easy. And so now I want to go back to my actual array object here, and I want to load this into my array horizontal because we want to have access to this model that is just one single object within a nested family, which is going to be our array horizontal, where then we will take that object and array it horizontally. Okay, I mean, of course, it makes perfect sense. So here we go. And I want to make you aware that it doesn't matter where you place it, and I'd highly recommend that you don't try and just place it on the center. Because we want to actually put it there and have it stay there. And so I'll just place it wherever, does not matter. And now I want to actually start to place this on my center point because that's where I need it to be, and I want it to be locked there, stuck there. Because if I were to leave it here, whenever I place this array or this family into my project, it would insert it at this center point, but then show up over here. So I want to make sure everything's centered, but we can do that through the align tool, and because this is a nested family, this becomes very simple, and this is one particular reason why you'd want to do that, because as soon as I select this reference plane, I can see that I have access to the other reference planes that fall within this object to use to align to. Very cool. So I'm going to select this one, which is the center. I want to make sure and lock this. I also want to select the vertical there, and the same with the vertical of the object, and then lock that. So boom, there we go. So what do we have here? Well, if I just load this into my project, I have the exact same thing as if I were to have taken this array object family directly into my project, because we've done nothing else yet. Now, okay, so we actually want to array now. How do we do that? Well, array, it works the exact same way as it does within the project. We're going to make essentially copies of this a certain distance apart. Okay. Very nice. And so I can actually go to my array tool up here, or I can type in AR, whatever it might be for you, your hotkeys, and I'm going to select my first point in which I want to start, and then give a distance to where the next one will show up. And so because this is pretty small, it's like 3 inches wide, I might choose something like 4.5 inches. And so that's great. And what I like to do is give this a default value of 3, because at least 3, because if I do it 2, then it likely may not work as well, in that we need to specify beyond 2. And so I like to do 3 just because I'm seeing that repetition on and on and on. So what are we left here with? We are left with 3 different objects, which is they're all the exact same. They're that array object we made first, but what we have now is each one of these objects is their own group, which is kind of interesting, because at this point I can actually go into this group and then change something, move it, rotate. I could rotate these around. I could do anything. Now, I don't need to do that, nor do I want to, but that is something just to be aware, because we have to deal with the fact that these are in groups, and we want to keep them in groups because we want this array to still work. And so whenever I click on any one of these objects, I can see this array, this number pop up. And instead of clicking the number, if I click the number, I can just change the number. But what I want to actually click is the line, like the whole thing associated to it. Now up here, I can see there's a label, and right now it says none. Well, I want to make that not say none and choose add parameter. So basically we're going to add our own parameter. And so at this point, let's go to let's make a new one. Horizontal number. This is how many there are. Horizontal number, you can name this however you want. Now this is where everything is kind of up to you, depending on how you're going to use this. Maybe it's a type parameter, in that you have to go into the type, change this value, in that it's just static, it's stuck that way. Or maybe it's an instance parameter. Maybe you have multiple of these around, and you need to determine, for this particular instance, there needs to be 4 there, and for this one, another one needs to be 22. I don't know. It's kind of up to you, but I like having more options when it comes to having different ones be different values and whatever. So I want to choose instance, and it will work out better for this video, and you'll understand it a little better. So we can group this under other, however you want it, but I would like to put it somewhere else, just because, maybe general, constraints, construction, data. It's up to you. This does not matter, and you can change it later, but I'm going to put it under constraints because I'm determining this myself, So we click OK. There we go. So now I can see there is my parameter called horizontal number 3. And in the case number 3, the number 3 itself is associated to the number. But now I can always change this to 4, whatever. And I can do that through my family types here. And I just change this to 4. Not a big deal. Now, I don't really care if it's 3 or 4 right now, because, it just doesn't matter. So I'll just keep it at 3. So now what I like to do, and this is just a preference, a part of it is a preference, but a part of it is not. So I actually want to come into the last group of my array. And what I want to do here is specifically tie this array down to the correct place. And by that, I mean keeping it on this horizontal line, because oftentimes what might happen is you end up drawing, or if you introduce any sort of angles or anything like that, this object will end up coming up, and they'll actually end up stacking up, which you can determine if you want that to happen, but we don't want this to happen, at least for this video. It's a simple array, and so what I want to do is keep this array on this same line. And to ensure that's the case, I'm going to make sure that this final array that I have, which in this case I've chosen 3, so the final one being the third, I have locked to this particular reference plane, and I'll do that just like that. That's very simple. So I'll click OK, and really nothing happened, but just notice that, do notice that we have this within a group, and so the idea is everything that we do within one is done within all of them. That's how a group works. They're the same group. And so what actually happened just now is that I aligned this last object to this reference plane, but because it was in a group, I've aligned all of them to this reference plane, which is perfect. And that's exactly what I want. Okay, easy. I want to go ahead and save this, and we're just going to dump this into the project. We're basically kind of done at this point, but I want to show you what it's like in the project. So whenever I place it, again, the default is 3, and that's what we're working with. So I can click on this, and we can see all 3 here. And whenever I do click on this, up here at the top is my constraints. Right there is my horizontal number equals 3. I can place it on the level, whatever I want. I can make this as much as I want. 22, doesn't matter. And there's my 22. Very cool. Like, that's what I want. Okay, well, now maybe we want to put this on a wall. Like I said, we'll just place this on a wall. We'll just do that. Go into 3D. We'll be able to see this on the ground. So unfortunately, because I made this just a basic generic model, I can't actually get this onto the wall. Well, that kind of sucks. That's really the point here, at least for what we're doing. And so how would we deal with that? Well, I need to make sure I'm using the right type of family. That's essentially what I need to do here. And so because this was not that involved, I actually want to go through this again with you and instead choose a different family template, which I would recommend if you're at the point where you're looking at the final object, the one that will go into your project. Make sure you're using the template that you want to associate with, because if I just choose generic model, it's going to only show up on that particular plane that I'm drawing it on, and then that's it. Now, all of the models that are nested into it can and maybe even should be generic models, because they are you have the easiest time working with just the basic generic model. So I like face base a lot more than wall or roof or any of these, because face is anything flat, so I can just place it on anything that I want. So I got to open that up. And so with this, I'm actually going to go ahead and, of course, save it. But what I want to do is I'll name it horizontal, array horizontal, but I just want to add face after that, because I want to know that it's face based. That's going to help me out a lot. And so like before, I need to come in here and edit this model and just edit the family here, and I want to end up loading this into my new family that I just made. So let's just simply load it in to the face. And now do note, I have not added a material or anything like that, and so once you add the material and other parameters that you might want within this particular object, they'll all be associated to every single object that falls within the array, which is absolutely perfect, and that's what you want. So here we are again in our face-based family, and I just want to place this here again. This is going to be really quick to do. I'm going to place this here on the centered point, lock it. Again, we are now going to array this object. Just go ahead and array it 4.5 inches, what I had before. Make sure we have 3. We're going to then add our parameter right here, because I do want this to be a parameter that I can control. Array, just horizontal. Horizontal number. Yes, that works. And then again, an instance parameter. Constraints is fine, general, whatever. I'll go ahead and put it under general this time. Okay. And then there we go. And then the last step, again, we want to edit this group and align to this reference plane. And now all of them will be on that reference plane, which is perfect. That is what we want. So I'm going to load this into my project one. And at this point now, we will have a little more control as to where we place it based on the face. And that's kind of the whole point of this, and that we want to be able to place it on a floor or a wall or anything. So this is great. I can see I can place on vertical face, which would work on the wall. I can really anywhere I want. I can select any of these faces of the wall and put it wherever I want, which is the idea. And so there we go. Place it right there on the wall, and I can determine, I want 3, I want 5, I want 20. How about 20? And there we go. Looks good. That's exactly what I want. So now, with all of this, maybe I want to align this to the edge. Let's go ahead and make sure this is 10, 20 feet long, maybe 20 feet long, and let's go ahead and align this to the end. I'll align this to the end. Maybe we'll go to an elevation view so we have a better look at that. Go to a south view here, and we can see that we can, in fact, align this to all of those references right there, that's what I want. So I'll put it there, and then again, just for good measure, I'll put this on the ground. Now, I don't actually want it on the ground because it's in the ground. Doesn't make sense. So let's go ahead and move this up. So that's good. That's where we want it to be. Now, we want to fill this wall up. Okay, well, let's finish filling the wall up so we can simply determine how many that might be. So maybe 30, maybe 40. It looks like it would be at least 40. And so with 40, we can see there, maybe it's 50 now. And this is just a 20-foot wall, and it just so happens to be that we need a few more. 53. So there we go. 53 fits just fine. That works. And if I want to get really precise with it, I can fit that wall in the end, but I don't care that much. this is going to look great. Now we're at the point where we have this entire array here on this ground level, like on the wall that's sitting on the ground. Now, here's the next big thing. Now, maybe we want to also array that up and literally fill the whole wall. Well, how would we do that? Well, I'm actually going to save that for a separate video because that's a little more intense. There's a little bit more to be aware of, but where we have gotten to now is that we have this array successfully arrayed horizontally, and it's working really well. We can place it where we want on any face, and so given that, we can put it on a wall, we can put it anywhere that I want that's a flat face, and then literally determine the number that I want. And so the only other thing that we might want to do is, if you care, is end up adding a material, which I don't see here, and that's because I didn't add one in the original array object family. You'd have to do it there. So for the sake of this video, I will do that, and I want to make sure that you know how to bring that parameter all the way down to the project level. And so what I want to do here now is edit this. So now I'm in the original array object family. So at this point, here we go. It's just one object. I'll come over here to the left and then add a material. So let's call this object material because that is what it is. I'll make that a type because I don't need to change that necessarily. And we'll just load this in, make sure we load it into the correct one, which is going to be the array horizontal, not quite the project yet. And then we'll save that, of course, we want to do that. And you'll also notice if we then were to bring this in here, and like we just did, and then take that load it into our main project, we would actually not have it yet because we need to end up tracking this particular material not only from the original family, but track this material within this nested family, this array horizontal family, and then that will allow us to see and manipulate that parameter within the project environment. So I need to go ahead and I need to select this array object and then edit the type, because remember we added that object material into this object as a parameter, and so now I need to do literally the exact same thing within this array horizontal, because we need to now give it a parameter that it will take into the project. And so now I want to create a parameter, and again I want to probably name it the same, object material, have that be a type because it makes sense. We'll click OK, and because this is a group and they're all the same thing, we are making this change all at once. So again, I want to load this into my project now, and then yeah, I do want to save it because sure. Yep. And then whenever this comes in, we can go directly to the array object, well, the whole array, which includes the array object, and go to the type. And there is my material, object material, and then by category I can make that whatever I want, and then that will be populated throughout the entire array, which is fantastic. That is what I want to see. So again, make this anything you want, does not matter, because at this point they're all going to have the same material, which is fantastic. That's kind of the point here. If you do want to start making materials be different here and there like that, that becomes definitely more advanced. So I would be cautious to do that, just because it would be difficult. Not to say it can't be done, but you have to start managing materials a bit differently. And I'm not going to try and get into that, because that would be quite the undertaking. And in that case, you'd have multiple arrays doing the same thing, reading into each other and referencing each other, so that you can have, for example, a material that would alternate or something like that. It's very doable, but it's also quite more advanced than what we're doing. So really, that will do for this video. We looked at creating an array object that we then nested into an array horizontal family that we have now loaded into our project. And we can, whenever I select this, I have the option of giving that specific number, how many I want, wherever it starts is based on that particular side. And then from there, I've added a material. So that will do it for this video. In the next video, because turns out it's probably better to have another video, we're going to take this array and we're going to create another array within the array. So it's going to be a lot more advanced, because I want to then determine how high or how many rows I want, because I have horizontal, the number horizontal, but maybe I want a ton of these vertical. Again, maybe I want to fill up this wall. And so how we might do that, we'll cover in another video. That will be a separate array. So thank you very much for watching. If you did happen to learn something, please demolish the like button. Really helps me out a lot. Also, stick around for that next array video. It should be coming up pretty soon. So have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for watching.